Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Wickedly Smart Women book launch interviews. I am so excited, so beside myself with the women that we're going to be sharing with you today. We're going to share their stories of their wickedly smartness and their trusting their intuition, taking action, and transforming worlds. So stick around because we got some really great interviews for you. Plus, we have over $3,000 in free gifts that we want you to cash in on. Angel, we're on.
I'm just making sure all the little links are working. Hi.
Surprise, surprise, we're on. I'm so excited about today, Angel. I actually met you in person probably about 3 or 4 years ago at a podcast event, and we, briefly connected, and then, time went by, and then I ended up re-meeting you on Clubhouse, where you were talking about podcasting and, how people get interviewed on podcasts. Then I ended up being interviewed on your podcast, the Wickedly Smart Women podcast, which is an 8 times award-winning podcast. Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then after the end of the interview, we were talking about the collaboration books that we do, as a book publishing company. This is one of them, Wickedly Smart Women, the collaboration book, and Angel's going to open hers up later today. And, it's just been an amazing journey for both of us. Like, there have been a lot that both of us have learned along this journey, not only about each other, but about ourselves. So it's been really fabulous. And I want you to share, why wickedly smart women, first of all, because I get people asking me all that time, and I want to hear it from you. Why wickedly smart women?
Well, the truth is, Linda, I actually had another podcast before Wickedly Smart Women. My first podcast was the Men on Purpose podcast. And about a year or so into producing that show, it became clear that a second show was going to be born. And I had actually, previous to launching Men on Purpose, I had spent 10 years mostly working with women. And then I went through this life rupture. And as a result of that, changed my name, and everything that I had created collapsed. And you can read more about that in my chapter, Change Your Name, Change Your Life. In any case, the Wickedly Smart Women podcast was born in September of 2019. And immediately, literally within one day, it was ranked at number 75. And I had my first 5-figure payday from the podcast before the show even launched. And so it became clear within 3 months that I needed to choose one or the other. And ultimately, I sold my first podcast, Men on Purpose, so that I could devote myself to the Wickedly Smart Women podcast. And then when you and I met, the collaboration book idea was always there. It was kind of like a seed that was always there. And when you and I met and we did our dance with each other, here it is. Here we are on birthday for our very first of what I know will be many, many, many Wickedly Smart Women books. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited about it. And, because you mentioned many, many more, we're actually behind the scenes already right now, working on the next 2. And, one of those is going to be a Wall Street Journal USA Today book. So if you're looking to become, a Wall Street Journal or USA Today, best-selling author, you definitely want to connect with us at actiontakerspublishing.com/WSW. Go check it out. We'd love to, talk to you to find out if this is a fit for you. This one is all about, channeling, channeling wisdom,
creating wealth,
creating wealth,
channeling wisdom, creating wealth, changing worlds, I think is
yes, that is what it is.
We are not 100% dialed in on the title for it yet, but we are very close.
Yeah. And, that's part of the process. When you start something, you have an idea and you're like, oh, this is an awesome idea. But then sometimes things happen and you want to tweak it. So, but we are definitely going to be launching that book, opportunities for people to join us in that book. We're limiting it to 15 authors, no more than 15 authors in that book. So we'd love to have you as part of that. So Angel, you want to introduce our first guest to the stage?
Oh my goodness, yes. I am so excited to bring Kathy Sohn to the stage. After a 36-year career at the Department of Defense, Kathy ended up deciding after she retired to take on the leadership role and become the CEO of her deceased husband's body of work and business. And her story is really, really powerful. And I'm really delighted to bring her here today. Welcome to the live stream, Kathy.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here today.
We're excited to have you. And Kathy, I want to start with your chapter title. Okay, your chapter title in the book, Wickedly Smart Women, is Wounded Healer. So can you tell us, how did you come to that particular title? Because choosing a title for a chapter, sometimes, like we come up with a whole bunch of different ideas, but we land on one eventually. So how did you land on this chapter title?
Well, I actually can't say that the concept Wounded Healer is entirely my own. It was actually something that came from my husband. I remember one day, several years ago, he and I were talking about all the people that have come forth to be healed with his work. And he said, it's amazing how many of them started out in life with really traumatic beginnings. And I know that they are headed for doing this work on themselves and then helping other people as well. And he said, I like to think of them as the wounded healers. And he himself was a wounded healer. He was abused as a child, and he was able to, grow through all of that and then, create this work. And I think sometimes we come here, there may be a purpose behind it. It may be purposeful that, okay, you go through the fire yourself, and then you rise up as the phoenix and hold your hand out and help others, and that they don't have to go through what you did in order to heal. And I think that's a part of humanity's evolution, is that then, okay, we have the lessons the hard way, and now we have someone who can come forth. And from here on, maybe people don't have to do it the same way and have those very, very difficult beginnings.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what we're going to do here, Angel, we're going to volley back and forth.
Yeah, great.
So if I put you up in the left, you're it. Okay.
Awesome. Well, Kathy, one of the things that I, noticed in your chapter, but also I know about you, is a primary wound that you're here to work with people on is the fear of public speaking. And so I'd love to have you speak just briefly about what you talk about in your chapter about that. And I also want to say that, public speaking or sharing your story or sharing your voice can be speaking like we're speaking right now, right? Using our voices, but it can also be speaking in writing. And so many people are actually stuck in their fear of speaking or having their story shared. And they actually have a story inside them that they could start just with the writing piece of it. So could you speak a little bit about how you specifically help people with transforming this fear of speaking?
Yes, of course. So in my chapter, I start out talking about an earliest memory that I had of sitting in the doctor's office and the doctor having asked me a question, and I'm just staring at him, and I just not saying a word. And so my mom had to speak up. And in remembering how when I was in school is when I first noticed it, it wasn't so much one-on-one as if I'm in front of a group of people. And so, people think of fear of speaking as standing on a stage in front of an audience. But when you think about it, it's like there's really from day to day, most of the day we're talking to people, and it may be one-on-one, it may be groups. And it may not be quite as intense as it was for me to, just almost pass out because I was so nervous about opening my mouth in front of a group of people. It could be, just asking for what I want. And I'm talking to my boss today. And I really want to be able to ask for that assignment that I know is going to set me up for a promotion, or talking to my spouse, talking to my children. Could be, so that fear of speaking is everything from what you think is the most you take for granted, but that's really what it's about, all the way up to perhaps, standing in front of a group and being able to tell your story again about maybe your own wounding. Because Angel, like you said, yes, everybody has their own trauma, and the world, the world needs you. They need to hear your story. And so I think, yes, I think just being able to write it down. My mom was had difficulty talking in front of people as well, but she said, but she could write. And a lot of times, I would see things in a letter. She would write it down because she knew that was the best way for her to communicate. And so with the work that I do, I assist people with finding out what were the beliefs that they created in very early childhood that are blocking them from communicating the way that they want to.
Beautiful. Well, the next question I have for you is about the writing process. I mean, you were part of a collaborative group of women here in the Wickedly Smart Women book, and I'd love to hear from you what it was like for you to be part of this group and to be part of this process, and why it's so important, not only for people who are out there maybe thinking of sharing their story or hiding sharing their story and ready now to take the next step into sharing their story, but also why it's so important for readers to access these stories as well.
This collaborative experience has been very exciting for me. I have in my life tended to be a sort of a lone wolf. I got to do things, on my own. This was a collaboration where I was and I was able to interact with the other authors, and so I was able to finally, for the first time, say, okay, I'm not doing this alone. And look at all these other women that have these amazing stories of transformation, through, again, their own. They went through some type of either some wounding, or they had some difficulties. And everyone that I heard had some type of a story that was so incredibly inspirational. And I'm actually writing my own book about the work that I do. And writing this chapter was very exciting for me, because I'm seeing my own book come out later this year, probably in late spring. But here I am, wow, it was one chapter, and look, the book is already being launched today. So that is so inspiring to me. I think anyone who maybe wants to write their own book, if they write a chapter in a collaborative book, they're going to see that they can do it. And they're going to feel very supported, because this has been the most amazing networking opportunity for me as well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Linda?
thanks for that. Thanks for that amazing testimonial. Totally not expected, but but I love it. I want to share, Stephanie Lee says, oh, wow, Kathy, I know exactly what you're talking about. The day-to-day public speaking, looking forward to reading your chapter. She bought the book yesterday. So thank you so much, Stephanie. And then we've got our Wickedly Smart Women. Hello, everybody. We're talking about the book, Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, Transforming Worlds. And it's available today on Kindle. It's actually been available for a couple days. But not only that, not only are you going to get the book, you're also going to have an opportunity to download over $3,000 worth of free gifts. So go to actiontakerspublishing.com/smart, actiontakerspublishing.com/smart, download your free gifts. And also, while you're there, go ahead and click on the link that shows the country that you're located in. So if you're in the US, there's going to be a US flag. If you're in the UK, there's a UK flag. Go ahead and click on that link and purchase the book in the country that you're located, because we're shooting for #1 international bestseller status, ladies. Yes, we are. And we know we can do it. We need your help to do that today. So thank you so much for that. Kathy, I want to thank you, for being part of this book and for sharing your story. And I want to know, because a lot of people, when they start to write their own story, emotions come up. And so I'm curious, did any emotions come up for you? I know you're carrying on your husband's work. You've been doing that, but did any additional emotions come up? And what was the cathartic experience like for you?
Well, I had never pulled everything together very succinctly like you need to for a chapter. And even the book I'm writing isn't about my life, it's about the work. And this is the first time that I was able to go back to the very early time, because the trauma that I had was around my birth, that I was able to go all the way back and realize that it was about choices that I had made along the journey. And that the cathartic experience was really the lesson that I'm bringing out in my chapter was one that I just realized through the course of writing it. Sometimes that happens. I guess they talk about extroverts, people who like to talk with others, and in the course of actually hearing themselves speak, they all of a sudden have a sudden realization, like, wow, did I just say that? And I think that's the way the chapter was for me, that I had the opportunity to just tell my story, and to weave in there of course, the importance of the work, because the reason I'm able to be here today and not, saying, oh no, there's no way I could be interviewed like in my previous years, was because I had experienced the healing myself. And so I talk a little bit about that work, which is so phenomenally powerful. So it was the first opportunity, I think, that I had to just pull it all together and say, wow, this can be inspirational for others who I would love to understand. Everyone who reads the book, don't get stuck. Just don't get stuck. It's not necessary. There's always a way out. There's always a way through. And I guess probably most of the time it is the way out is the way through your wounding and to heal and step out more powerful than you can imagine.
Awesome, Kathy. Well, you are just such an extraordinary woman, and you have taken on this mantle of your husband's work in service to helping other people, speak and express themselves. So if there's one thing that you would like the readers, or the potential buyers who are watching this to consider buying the book, right? If there's one thing that's in your chapter, or maybe in some of the stories that you've already connected with through the other women, that you'd like those who are watching us today to know about, that would encourage them to either buy the book or go deeper into the book if they've already bought it, what would that be?
Well, I think through my chapter, in the end, I think that would be about reading about the choices that I made. I think ultimately, because that's how I begin, is talking about how everything is truly about a choice. There's a lot of times I hear people say, well, I don't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. And yes, you do. I mean, even when it doesn't seem that like you do, you have a choice to respond and not react in situations. You have a choice to not stay stuck where you are. And I would love for all those who read my chapter to understand that by seeing how choices played out in my life, all the way up to the choice after I lost my beloved husband, to say, okay, I'm not going to just curl up in a corner, which is initially what I wanted to do, and say, okay, he would want me to continue going on. We have 2 children, of course, and so there really wasn't an option. So not only to support the children, but to support all children, because we all are all children, by stepping out. And yes, even so, I had healed from not wanting to be talk in front of groups, but it's still been a journey for me to take the step. The first time I did a podcast, just the first time, stepping on a stage with a lot of people, it's still, I continue to grow through that. And I have my challenges, but I prefer to look at it as, I'm not nervous, I'm just excited. So again, that's a choice, right? How am I feeling? How do I want to interpret how I'm feeling?
I love that. That's so good. I don't know if you know this, Kathy, but in 2015, I broke through one fear every day for a year. And in doing that process, I learned so many different things about myself. And like you said, stepping up to the stage here. The first time I was interviewed, I was terrified. The second time I was less terrified. By the fifth or sixth time, I was not terrified anymore. And then interviewing people, like the same thing. The first time was scary. It's just like riding that bike that first time, or the first time you get behind the wheel of a car, 10 and 2, keep, all these different rules we got to follow. And then it just ends up becoming part of our comfort zone. And now this is just part of who we are. This is our new normal. So I love that. Kathy, I want to thank you so much for being here, being part of the Wickedly Smart Women book. You got to go out and get your copy of the book, Wickedly Smart Women. Go to actiontakerspublishing.com/smart. You'll see it up there on the screen. And also there's $3,000 of free gifts that we'd love for you guys to download and take advantage of those. Go tap into those gifts, cash them in. So Kathy, you have any final words for us before we bring up our next guest?
No, I just want to encourage everyone, please buy the book. And it's for a very good cause as well. So please do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to send you back down to the green room, and thank you. We really appreciate you, and just keep doing your amazing work that you're doing. Oh, Angel, that was so amazing. I just love her. I love her energy and, what she's all about and who she's helping. But she did mention, it's good for a good cause. Why don't you talk a little bit about the nonprofit, which is the Life is Good Playmakers Foundation? Share with us a little bit about that and how you got involved. Because I know you're actually involved with them. This isn't one like you're like, oh, let me go scour the internet and find a nonprofit. No, you're actually involved with this nonprofit. So share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, beautiful. You and I are on the psychic hotline, Linda, because as soon as she said children, I was like, oh, yes, we definitely want to remind our book buyers that portion of all of the net proceeds from the sale of the book today are going to the Life is Good Playmakers project. They actually just recently changed the name from the Life is Good Playmakers Foundation to the Life is Good Playmakers Project. And I first found out about the Life is Good Playmakers in 2013, when I was a sponsor and a participant in a huge event that was held in Orlando, and the keynote guest speaker and philanthropic outlet of choice for the host of that event was Life is Good Playmakers. And the CEO of Life is Good, the chief executive optimist, Bert Jacobs, spoke on the stage that day. And as he was speaking, it was literally about 3 weeks after the Boston Marathon bombing, which happened literally down the street from their offices. And one of their employees actually was injured in that bombing. And as he was speaking, it just like the whole story just burst my heart wide open. And my heart, I just said, oh my God, this is my philanthropic organization of choice going forward from here. Because what the Life is Good Playmakers do is they actually train frontline childcare workers to help kids who have been traumatized, whether it's by a natural disaster or something like the marathon bombing, or are in a war zone. They help the frontline childcare workers teach those traumatized children how to play again. And I feel like play is such an important aspect of our childhood that without that, we become cold, hard, cynical adults. And so for me, the Life is Good Playmakers Foundation became my philanthropic outlet of choice since 2013. So it's 10 years now that I have been contributing as a donating, fundraising. I tithe 10% of my net profits from my business on a consistent basis to the Life is Good Playmakers. And so it was a natural thing for us to choose them for the proceeds from this book.
That's awesome. I love how you like there was that trusting that intuition, right? Like, which is what this book is all about, trusting intuition. And then you took action on it. A lot of times we hear about things and we think, oh, that's sad, or that I'm so sorry they're going through that. We may make a donation, but then you decide to keep on going with it. So thank you so much for that work and introducing us to the Life is Good Playmakers. So truly appreciate you for that. Now I want to talk a little bit about the next book that we have coming up. In a couple of minutes, we're going to bring up our next two guests, Karen and Stacy. But before that, let's talk a little bit about the next upcoming Wickedly Smart Women book that's coming up. We actually have two that we're working on, but the one I wanted to talk about today is Wickedly Smart Women, Channeling Wisdom, Creating Wealth, and Changing Worlds. This book here in particular is going to be a USA Today, Wall Street Journal best-selling book. So if you want to find out information about that and how you can be part of that, please reach out to us at actiontakerspublishing.com/WSW. But Angel, I want you to talk a little bit about that book, like the premise behind, that channeling wisdom. Like you came up with that subtitle. So I want to hear from you. Like, how did you come up with that?
Well, so one of the things that happened to me in my own personal journey was about 20 years ago, I had a spiritual awakening. And as a result of that spiritual awakening, I ended up discerning and discovering that I am actually a channel for divine wisdom. And so it's like a leg up yoga move beyond just trusting intuition. Trusting intuition is like the core baseline. But then as we continue to improve our relationship with our own knowing, and we continue to open up to those intuitive pieces of information, we can also become channels for the divine wisdom to come through us. And so that's one of the reasons why I chose this as a subtitle, because I've discovered that many people go through this process. I call it ascending messenger mountain, where they have an awakening and they begin to trust their intuition. And then ultimately they discover that they are here to channel divine wisdom through, in order to be the embodiment of and the transmitters of evolutionary thoughts and evolutionary activations, so that we can actually create a better and better and better world for ourselves and those who are going to be living beyond us.
Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I could just listen to you talk about this stuff all day long. Like, it's good you have a podcast, right? Because you have this opportunity to share your amazing wisdom, which is fantastic. I love it. Well, today we're talking about, though, the Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, Transforming Worlds book. We're looking to, hit that #1 bestseller status. So if you haven't yet gone and purchased the book, it's 99 cents on Kindle, and you can just get it at actiontakerspublishing.com/smart. So go ahead and click that link. Well, it's not a link, but go there, actiontakerspublishing.com/smart, and get your free gifts, $3,000 of free gifts, as well as get the book, and help us hit that #1 international bestseller status. So Angel, we have our next two guests coming up. We have Karen Rudolph and Stacy Shiflett. And I'd love for you, because you know all these women so well. So I would love for you to, introduce first Karen, and then we'll bring her up, and then Stacy.
All right, beautiful. Well, Karen is an extraordinary woman who has actually survived multiple near-death experiences. And part of what she's here to do is to support others who are healers or coaches or channels for divine wisdom, to be able to actually ground in the experiences that they've had, to accept those experiences, and to harvest the gifts from those experiences, so that they are able to distill the values that want to be planted in the culture, the values that want to be planted in families, the values that want to be planted in society that will allow us to evolve as a humanity in the most positive and powerful ways. And Karen's an extraordinary healer and intuitive. So welcome, Karen. We're so excited you're here.
Thank you. What a great intro. Thank you. Thank you. Love it.
It's here in the beautiful outdoors there. It looks not a single cloud in the sky. Absolutely gorgeous.
Oh my God. I'm down here in Costa Rica and I didn't want to miss this opportunity because, I'm just so excited about the book launch and the community that it's created and really getting from the bottom of my heart that we're all one. I'm you, you're me, and we're creating each other and we're just a manifestation of each other and what's possible out there. So, yeah.
Definitely. Well, excited to have you here. And before we go on, though, want to have Angel now introduce Stacy.
All right. Well, Stacy is another wickedly smart women. Can we talk about wickedly smart women? Stacy is one of the most extraordinary business owners I have ever met. This woman actually was intuitively guided to purchase a multi-million-dollar company and had no resources that she could see, and somehow magically was able to amass those resources by following her intuition and trusting that little voice within her. And so that's just one part of her epic story. She has been a serial entrepreneur, and she is now here to create an environment and a platform and a vehicle through which modern consciousness can take root in the collective. So I'm super excited for you to be here, Stacy. Welcome.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you.
Yes, welcome. Stacy, do you have a fan on in the background or something?
I do not.
Okay, we're gonna work with it. Okay, well, welcome, ladies. So excited to have you here today. And the Wickedly Smart Women book, like we're climbing the charts. We're really, really close to that #1 status. And I would just love to hear from both of you, because what I wanted to do is bring up your chapter titles and just have you talk a little bit about how you came to that chapter title. So Karen, we're going to start with you. Your chapter title is Before I Lived, I Died a Seemingly Thousand Deaths. I love that title because it really tells a lot about what your chapter is about, but it doesn't give away everything. And I must admit that when I was reading your chapter, I've read it several times. And when I was reading your chapter, I had just these interesting thoughts about what you've experienced in your life and how I'm so glad I didn't experience those things. But, so Karen, share with us the title of your chapter and like how you came to that title.
Before I lived, I died seemingly 1,000 deaths. Well, for me, if I live in the past, then I'm living, I'm not experiencing life. So each of my experiences have brought me to where I am today. So every day I die a little piece of me, but I gain so much more of me as I'm moving forward each day with excitement and enthusiasm. So when I was 5 years old, being the curious person I was, I had drank a bottle of nose drops, and my mother freaked out. And being a hypochondriac, she immediately rushed me to the hospital, but I didn't realize that it was actually poison. And I remember having an out-of-body experience. And during that out-of-body experience, my little girl was just like, oh my God, this is so flippin' cool. And here I am looking down on myself, but I didn't put any of it together at the time. And then it wasn't until I was in my early 20s when I had a Mach 2 Mustang. I've always been into sports cars. And I spun around on an ice patch in New York State and hit a boulder head on and was in the hospital. But I remember seeing the white light, and nobody talked about near-death experiences at all. And I knew I was intuitive and things would come to me, especially like an ESP sort of feeling. But again, I couldn't label it because no one talked about it. And when I would ask my parents or my grandmother about it, because I sensed they had it, they would just hush me up, and I got the message that kids were to be seen, not heard. And I just sort of let it lie. And then when I met my former husband, he was like, Karen, shut it off. You're freaking me out. And I'm like, okay, there's something wrong with me. I immediately labeled it as such. And I squelched it. And the more I squelched it, the more I felt compressed and not myself. And then fast forward 29 years later, when I finally said, this is it, you get sick and tired of being sick and tired of the abuse and whatever else was going on at the time, that I started exploring and asking questions and realizing I'm not alone in this, that, in the sense of what we're doing here as a collective, um, if there's bugs flying on my nose, no less. At any rate, as a collective, that we're living a humane life, the humanity of the collectiveness. And my experience is going to impact somebody else's experiences. Yours is going to impact mine. I'm staying here in Costa Rica with 10 amazing women. And my first thought this morning as I was drinking ginger tea was, I want to learn something from every one of you. So that to me is what the book is about, is, we're recreating each other just differently. We all have our traumas. We all have our angst. We all have our experiences. And, seemingly living 1,000 deaths was an awakening for me, because I started feeling intuitively that I'm guided here for something bigger than I know myself to be. And since that moment of recognition, I started leaning into life and being more of the yes. And as scary as heck as it was, I just keep leaning in now. And sometimes I'm still human. I lean back. And I have to look at the whole picture, the whole perception of it, and realize it's just my story I'm telling myself. But what is my why? What is really keeping me going, that I want to show up? Like, my internet is so spotty here, but I made a point of wanting to show up, that I told the group, before we do anything, we're planning this big day down here. I want to show up, not just for all of you collective on the book, but all of those who are purchasing the book and taking it in, because there's a message in the book, in every one of those stories, that's going to impact you, influence you, or shift maybe one little iota of who you're becoming in the space of growth. So
Beautiful, Karen. Well, we're so excited that you were able to make the space and make the decision to show up also for yourself, right? So thank you for showing up for yourself. I think one of the things that your chapter does is it really helps to normalize, because you spent so many years kind of repressing, depressing, suppressing the experiences you were having, and even being shamed or shut down for those experiences. And it can really create a cognitive dissonance in somebody. If you're having an experience and everyone's telling you either to shut it down or hide it or ignore it, it can create a real cognitive dissonance for people. So I think it's really beautiful that you're here to normalize, to actually help normalize these spiritual experiences, these awakening experiences. So if somebody is out there in our audience who is thinking about buying the book and maybe has had a spiritual awakening or a near-death experience, what could you say to them right now that would encourage them to join us and to elevate the book to #1 bestseller for sure, but also to go into that depth and discover for themselves and get affirmed for themselves through your story and the stories of these women?
Yeah, beautiful question. I think first off, buy the book. And I'm not just saying that to, raise ratings and all that. I mean, literally buy the book, because you're going to see an element of yourself in each one of those stories. And even if you don't think it immediately, you're going to resonate with something that will. And my first thought is, remind yourself you're human. Self-compassion goes a long way. When I studied world religions, the one common thread amongst all religions is compassion. But we forget to take on self-compassion. And I think that was the biggest process for myself, was taking that on and realizing that I'm not different than everybody else. I'm human first and foremost. And in that space of of labeling it as being human. It's okay to go through whatever experience I'm getting, label it whatever I want. But once you label it, then I can put my hand on my heart and say, I love myself just the way I am and just the way I'm not. And what am I going to do with this? And I don't even ask what I'm going to do with it. It's like, what can I build with this? I've had this experience. What can I build with it to serve others? Because it's not just about myself. I live in a community, a big world. I'm down here like thousands of miles from my home. And, what can I do to make an impact on one person while I'm living here in this life, in this body?
That is so good, Karen. Thank you so much for sharing that. And really it's about, like when we do read books and we listen to podcasts or we watch shows and stuff, like what can we glean from that? What can we learn in order to help us to up-level ourselves, our own lives? And because that has that ripple down effect, like you were mentioning so previously. So thank you so much for all of that. Now I want to bring up Stacy. Stacy's chapter title is Whispers of the Soul. So Stacy, I'd love for you to share with us, how did you come to that chapter title and what does that mean?
Well, since the book was about intuition, it was really interesting to write about it and to go back and think about the times through my life where I had been intuitively guided even before I really even realized what it was, right? So that's where the title came from. And part of my story is the ability to really be able to quiet your mind to listen to those whispers, because we are always being guided. I talk in my story about, I believe, 3 different voices. Sometimes it's just, I know better, right, from experience. And a lot of times we even ignore those little prompts that we receive. The second I sort of characterize as my higher self, right, who has a higher ambition for me and is helping me on this journey in this life to learn the lessons I need to learn and have the experiences that I am to have. And then the third voice, of course, is just spirit. It's that higher connection, being able to channel, as was discussed earlier. I think Angel mentioned that's the next book, or Linda did. So it was really interesting to go back and look at my life from the beginning and the early things that I didn't even realize really were whispers from my soul.
There's one of the things that we're doing with Stacy and Karen is, they purchase a different level. And with that level is creating a video for them. So Karen tells this story, she's reading the chapter, but I just want to allude to it a little bit. So she talks about, a couple of different characters that enter her life that are not living. So Karen, I'd love for you to just touch on that just enough to wet the whistle so that they go by the book. Okay. I mean, not Karen, I meant Stacy.
Oh gosh. I've had some really interesting experiences. And of course, as someone mentioned earlier, you really have to concentrate it down within just 2,500 words. If you're open to listening and you do so without fear, right? So that is also part of my story. It was embraced. And I had experiences that were embraced by my family as well. I was one of those kids that had an imaginary friend, right, that stayed with me for a while. My mother and my dad, for that matter, they both embraced him. He was with me for a lot. I lived in a home that you would call haunted. This being and I became very comfortable with each other within the space of this house. We developed a relationship of sorts, which sounds crazy, but I've got goosebumps all over. He would respond to me, but although my first experience with him, I was absolutely terrified, right? Like in the movies when you're opening your mouth trying to scream because there's this 3-dimensional shadow standing by my bed. I was just struck in fear, but I moved beyond that with curiosity. So I think sometimes being being open and curious to what it is. And then I have lots of other stories about those kinds of incidents that are actually not in the book because of the page limit.
Yeah, that is quite a limit that we put on you all, right?
And we're grateful for it. We're grateful for it. It helps you in the writing process really focus in on what your message is for that story. And then my writing process, I always ask also, what is it that someone needs to hear, right? There's a context and a subject matter for the book, right? And, trusting intuition, taking action, transforming worlds. So, but then within that framework, what am I to share? What is within me that aligns with this? And what is it that someone else needs to hear?
Stacey, I am really loving this time that we're spending together right now, because something just came through that I'm really curious about. You mentioned having the voice of experience where we know better, right? Then the voice of the higher self, which is where we're getting our guidance. And then the voice of spirit, which is where we're really channeling. We're becoming a channel for the higher wisdom that I talked about earlier, and what we're going to be, exploring in the next book that's going to be a USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller. You are uniquely positioned compared to many people in that you had a family that was accepting of what you were experiencing. And that's unusual, I think. And so I'm curious, because you've also developed and experienced and created multiple successes in the more practical business world. When you got out into the big world, which may not have been nearly as accepting as your family was, how did you reconcile this, like becoming this practical, successful, epically risk-taking businesswoman in a world that probably did not readily embrace your intuitive side?
Angela, I have a really simple answer. I think what came in for me for that is, first of all, I didn't really realize it. It was just me. It was just me. It was my thought process. It was always me testing the boundaries, realizing that I needed to have all of these experiences, some good, some my mother would, much to her consternation, right? Truly a child of the 70s. But, I have never regretted anything. It has, and I can remember having these conversations even with my mom. I don't regret anything. Everything has converged within me to make me who I am. So I wouldn't be relatable to people if I hadn't had experiences similar to theirs. And I have a lot of experiences in a lot of areas. So I think I didn't really know until I really started this journey in earnest. And it's always just been part of me that I've appreciated and just naturally followed.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. It just brings up so many things because, we're all different. We might experience the same experience, but we might experience it differently. Right. And that's one thing that I think is very interesting about human beings is that we have this opportunity to interpret however we want to interpret. And then we move our lives forward based on our own interpretations. And so it's really fascinating, as being a human being. What I want to do is I want to flip to Karen. And so Karen, what I'm curious about is when you made that decision to join this book, Wickedly Smart Women book, I'm curious, what was it? What was the tipping point for you that you're like, okay, I'm in, I want to do this?
Well, interestingly enough, all I heard was the word intuition, and it was like, yeah, man, I am intuitive. And once I started opening it, and then of course, let's not kid ourselves, the title was very alluring, isn't it? Wickedly Smart Women. It was like I never years ago would have even thought of myself as a a smart woman, let alone a wickedly smart woman. But then when I started thinking about it, we were all intuitive and we all are wickedly smart. We just haven't owned it yet. So I wanted to be a part of that too, really get out to the community at large that you have it. You're no different than all of us. We just lean in a little more, but that comes with experience and practice and loving self. So, yeah.
Angel?
Yes. So, I am really interested right now in enthusiastically encouraging those of you who are watching us on the live stream to drop in some comments and maybe some questions that you might have about the book, about these lovely women. And also, I'd love to invite you to join us tonight for our launch party. We are having a launch party tonight. And if you check into my feeds on Facebook or LinkedIn, Twitter, also Linda's feeds, any of the authors' feeds, you will access the link to get registered for tonight's party. We would love to have your support to help these amazing, wonderful women from all over the world to reach the #1 position. We're already a bestseller internationally, and our aim today is to hit that #1 position. So we are so grateful for all of your support, for purchasing the book, for helping us to support the Life is Good Playmakers Foundation, now Playmakers Project. And I want to take just a moment to say thank you to all of the authors for not only being willing to say yes to this calling, because when we put out an invitation for somebody to be in a book, we are calling you. It's a calling. We're calling you in. We're calling you. We're beating our drum and saying, this is the gathering. This is the place where we're going to elevate, celebrate, and spotlight you and your story and help you to expand your reach with what you teach. So we just really want to say thank you. I want to say thank you on behalf of my team here at Wickedly Smart Women. I also want to say thank you to Linda and her team at Action Takers Publishing, because it was as a result of our partnering with one another that we're here today, and we have many more books to come. So thank you so much. Buy the book. Help us get to #1. Support the Life is Good Playmakers and elevate, celebrate, spotlight, and learn from these wickedly smart women.
Yes, exactly. Now we have only a couple minutes left, and then we're going to bring up our next group. So Stacy, I would love to hear from you. Like, what is like one thing that you would love to share with the audience to take away that's going to help them, to up-level their own business, their own life, or what have you? Like, what's a takeaway you'd love to share with them?
I think if I was to offer one takeaway, it's this. I've done it myself, and I've heard so many do it. Oh, it's just the way I am. It's just the way I am. No, it's a way you're choosing to be. And and that doesn't mean critical or what have you, but for you to really stop and think about it. Is it and is the way you are serving your best and highest, as well as serving those in the best ability, all the ones you love, right? The people that you love and that are in your circle. So I think that would be it, right? Question it. Don't just say, oh, that's just the way I am. Question it. Figure out why. And then if you want to change it, you can.
And I love that you actually mentioned that in your chapter as well, right? Question it. So that always comes back to that. And it is not just the way you are. It's a choice. So thank you so much for that. And then Karen, what is your final takeaway that you would love the audience to walk away with?
Absolutely. I have to wholeheartedly agree with Stacy. It is a choice. The power of choice. When we choose to stop, I always come from a space of stop, change, shift, and shift the perception that we do have a choice, because a lot of people forget that we do have a choice. And once you start leaning in, question everything. Is this resonating? Is it not? Tap into that feeling. That's your intuition. That's your GPS. We all have it. Own it and trust you.
Own it, trust it, own it, trust it, own it, trust it. We have very interesting stories. Good morning, Karen. I believe my spirituality comes from my near death as a child, because now Sally also had a near death experience, and totally going to share your book today. Thank you, ladies, for sharing yourselves with the world and normalizing sensitive intuition in the world. So Karen and Stacy, thank you so much for being part of the Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, Transforming Worlds book. And we look forward to seeing you later tonight at the lunch party. That's at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And you can join us by going to sallyonzoom.com. So we look forward to seeing you all tonight. So with that said, I'm going to send you both down to the green room, and thank you for being here. Congratulations on being an international best-selling author. Let's shoot for number one. Number one. We're number one. We're number one. And we'll see you ladies later. Oh, there we go. We got the bell. We got the bell. You can ring my bell. You
Ring my bell.
Remember that song? Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. So much fun. So Angel, this is a blast. I'm having a great time with the women. We're checking the rankings behind the scenes every hour or so, the rankings update. And when we get an update, I will definitely share that with everybody here. And then later, you're going to be opening up your book, your box of books that have arrived, and looking forward to seeing what you think of it in person, which is good. Yeah, and so next up we have Stacy McGovern and Dr. B. We're going to be bringing them up in just a second. But before we go to that, I just wanted to play this quick commercial that we have, for the book. Okay, I'm like jamming out to that music. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited because these women, as we go through, creating a collaboration book, Angel had interviewed, the vast majority of the women on her podcast already. So she had a chance to meet them. And then for me, it was like, okay, I get a chance to meet them as well. And then through reading the stories, this is where we really make our true greatest connections, is through our stories. Stories have been told since the very beginning of time. And this is how we make our greatest connections. So what I love about these stories is about the trusting intuition. I remember when it came time for me to sit down and write my chapter, Angel, I was like, I don't know that I trust my intuition. I don't know if I belong in this book. So I had to really rack my brain and think, do I belong in this book? Is there a point in my life that I started trusting my intuition? And so really a part of the process for me in writing my chapter was to help me to see that, yes, I do trust my intuition. And then I take action for sure. I'm an action taker. That's why Action Takers Publishing. And it's just been a great experience, getting to know them, them hopping on the author calls and just all these different opportunities that we provide for our authors to get to know each other. We had earlier, Kathy mentioned about the collaborations. And so there's so much that's involved with these collaboration books that I absolutely love. So Angel, before we bring up our next guests, Stacy and Dr. B, I would love to hear from you. Like, what was it about doing a collaboration book, because you're heading up the book, being in a book, and then there's you heading up the book. What was it about this one that really made you decide, what, let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Well, before I go down that road, I do want to say that one of the things that I discovered as I've been interviewing the women and also as we've been creating the book is that, you mentioned you weren't sure if trusting intuition was where you landed, but the point of this book is trusting intuition, taking action, and transforming worlds. So what I discovered is some of our authors fall more squarely, like you do, into taking action. And some of our authors, like the two ladies that we just had and Kathy, who we had before, are much more squarely in the place of trusting intuition. And some of the authors we'll see later on this live stream are more squarely in the place of transforming worlds. But all of the authors have elements of each in their stories. So in terms of participating in this collaborative book, so the very first time I actually was in a book myself was back in 2004-5 timeframe, somewhere in that zone. And it was a collaboration book. And I think that for anybody who's called to be a messenger, for anybody who has a really powerful story that they just know that they have got to get out into the world, whether it's for commercial purposes or for cathartic purposes or both, a collaboration book is such a beautiful opportunity to take that baby step into becoming an author. And becoming an author is actually a rite of passage. So when you and I sat down together to begin our conversation about whether or not we wanted to collaborate with each other, primarily it was you and your enthusiasm for this style of book, as well as the success that you had already demonstrated and the confidence that you brought to the table, even though you were at the beginning of your own journey as a business owner, around the concept of a collaborative book that allowed me to deepen into trusting my own intuition and taking action to make this magic with you.
I love that, because confidence is something that I had, a really hard time tapping into, having that my own confidence of, because I grew up in a very volatile, abusive, alcoholic household. The children were better seen than heard. We heard that mentioned earlier. And, so my story is very similar yet different to a lot of people out there. And confidence was something that it took a lot for me to believe it. Right. So I may have been confident a lot of things in my life, and people might have looked at me and said, boy, she's got a lot of confidence. But if I didn't believe it, it didn't matter, because I needed to learn how to tap into that. And so this whole process has been part of that for me. So thank you for giving me that gift of, sharing that my confidence is something that helped, because that's not actually something I would have mentioned about myself. So.
Well, and let me just say, Linda, sometimes we are borrowing confidence, and it may not necessarily have been your own personal confidence that was being transmitted to me, but you absolutely were wholeheartedly devoted to the concept of a collaborative experience. And you had the systems in place that had already proven to you that they were functional. And so maybe you personally borrowed some confidence from your belief in the collaborative book concept and your systems that were already in place.
And that's a great point right there. Is I did borrow that, from other people on my journey, the positive people on my journey, of course. And, I was in a collaboration book. That was the first for me as well. And I remember when I joined that collaboration book, oh my gosh, I was so scared to share it because my words were on paper. And so it was, that was the first step. And then to the next step. And as I mentioned, even, in the earlier segment about, we have fears that come up in our lives, but the more we do it, the more it becomes part of our normal, our comfort zone. And so that's what's happened along this process. And I saw for me, the process of how being in a collaboration book was transformative for me. And that's why I have that confidence, because I know what it's done for me and I know what it's done for many other people. So, oh gosh, we're talking about the book, Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, Transforming Worlds. And you can get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/smart. In addition, we have over $3,000 worth of free gifts for you over there. So go to actiontakerspublishing.com/smart. These are free gifts from the authors. This is one of the things that we do in our collaboration books is we invite all of our authors to give free gifts to the readers. And so you can get your free gifts over there. While you're over there, you'll also see a bunch of different flags from different countries. And when you click on that flag, that will take you to the country that you will buy the book in. And this is how we hit #1 international bestseller status. Right now, this is an international best-selling book. Awesome. We're in the UK and United States. And we're also looking for that #1 status in both of those countries. It's really weird. So I just share like a little behind the scenes thing is that Amazon doesn't always, for some reason, register everything. And so the rankings aren't showing up yet in Canada. I know we've had many people purchase the book in Canada because they've reached out to me and told me, but the rankings aren't showing up yet. So once those start showing up, we'll be able to see what's happening in Canada as well. So with that said, we're going to bring up our next two guests. We have Stacey McGovern and Dr. B. And Angel, I would love for you to introduce first Stacey. We're going to bring her up, and then we'll have you introduce Dr. B.
Awesome. Well, Stacey is a powerhouse businesswoman. This woman is an action taker like you would not believe. And I really appreciate that Stacey is one of those people who sees a problem and immediately finds the solution and then commercializes that solution and turns it into cash flow. And so I love having her in this book, and I love what she's doing for our law enforcement officers in her area. She helps those law enforcement officers through her company to increase their own income with off-duty gigs. And you'll find out a lot more about Stacey and her long and beautiful journey in entrepreneurship by getting the book and reading her chapter. Welcome, Stacey. So excited to have you here.
Hi. Yeah. So excited to be here. Excited that the book is finally out and available to everyone. And yay, it's an exciting day.
Yeah, I love your story, Stacey, because like Angel said, you saw a problem and it was a problem that you were experiencing in your own life. And then you expanded it out because you could have just kept it to yourself, but you didn't. You've expanded it out to your whole town, right? And so we'll have Stacey come up in just a minute and share what she does, because it really is fascinating. And I know when I first heard you talking about it, I was like, this needs to be global, but she, you got to start somewhere. And so that's where she's starting, is in her own hometown. But when you hear what she is doing, like Angel said, for law enforcement, you're just going to be blown away. So next up, Dr. B, you want to introduce Dr. B, Angel?
Yes. So Dr. B. Thomas is one of the most extraordinary manifestors I have ever met in terms of being able to take her word and turn it into reality. And she is so deeply grounded in her ancestral wisdom and her connection with the divine and with source and with her goddess energy. But she's also incredibly willing to be a trailblazer and to step into whole new territories and make her way and be a path maker. I met Dr. B through her first book, or maybe it's not her first book, but the book that I met her through was Expect Effing More, which is all about helping African American women to learn how to have the basics of business under their belt so that they can create cash flow and they can create worlds that are in service to their highest vision. So I'm so excited that you're here, Dr. B. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited too about, your chapter as well. And, I put the title up there. It's Intuition, the True God Particle. And, your chapter really helped me with something that you don't know about, because I'm going to share it with you right now, is that, for me, spirituality is something that I have, I'm still on that path of that journey of kind of discovering, more and more and more about it. And so your chapter really opened my eyes to looking at spirituality in a different way. So thank you so much for that beautiful gift that you've given to me.
Thank you. I'm very honored that it helped you in such a fantastic way.
And I know you're right up the street from me, really. I mean, you're like only about an hour from where I live. So we should get together for sure. We'll make that happen.
Absolutely.
We'll make that happen. So I want to start off with Stacy. Stacy, the title of your chapter is From Outside Sales to Multi-Million-Dollar Company Owner. So why don't you share with us, Angel talked a little bit about, what you do, but share with us what it is that you do and how you're helping your police officers in your area.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a police wife, I realized really quickly what a lot of people don't know is that, at least in Texas, police officers don't make a lot of money, especially in the smaller departments. So, that really hit home, as a police wife. And, there's always off-duty work to supplement their incomes, but it's always really random. And we never knew when he was going to be able to do any off-duty work. There was no real scheduling. It was just kind of, he'd get home and we'd get a random phone call and he'd go work. And that's really not a great way to live your life. It's very, hard to plan or have any kind of family time. So plus just being a police officer is hard on that. So anyway, I said, there's got to be a better way. And I was, an outside salesperson and he was a police officer, but my mom always told me that if you want to change your life, you're the only one that can do it. And it's so true. And I just got this idea that there had to be a better way for these officers to get the off-duty work that they needed, relied on to make ends meet. And I created a company. I started off as just an LLC and a business card, literally. Still had to work a full-time job, still raising 2 boys. Husband was still a police officer, never home. But I worked for 2 years trying to get traction on my idea. And ultimately in 2012 is when I started. In 2014 is when I got a knock at the door, and it was FedEx. And we had won a $1.5 million contract to use our officers on a traffic control project in Dallas, Texas. So literally went from, outside sales and police salary to running a multi-million-dollar company. And now we've grown to be one of the largest, if not the largest, traffic control and site security companies in the state of Texas.
Okay, so you get this knock on the door, you see this contract, $1.5 million. Do you go like, oh shit, now what?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. Yeah, for sure. And it's a 300-page contract. So you start reading in there, and there's $5 million in insurance required, and they wanted us to start in 2 weeks, and gonna need 10 to 15 officers a night for this project. And at that moment, Point Blank didn't get packages. It was still just an idea and a business card, and me cold calling and trying to get traction. So yeah, it was a lot, but I just said, and this is really important. I hope people hear this, because there's so many times in life when things break or almost break, and people give up right before that happens. And, I could have said, I don't have enough money for $5 million in insurance. I don't even have police officers in a pool yet. I'm not ready. I'm not going to do this. But I was like, no, there's no way. I'm not going to change my life, change my kids' lives, change all these officers' lives. And so we literally, this is 100% the truth, had a garage sale every day for 2 weeks, sold everything we had to try to make this dream happen because, in the big picture, you can always get more stuff. And 1.5 million buys a lot of stuff. So, yes, we really, did a lot of crazy stuff, but we made it happen. And luckily in the law enforcement world, news spreads really quickly. So we had a lot of support from the officers and so we didn't quite start in 2 weeks, but we did get started in about a month, and and it's just blown up from there. And I'm very, very blessed. I'm very grateful, and I like telling the story, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to be in the book, because it's very motivating and inspiring, and it's kind of the true American dream story, if you will. And I've never told the story that I didn't have someone reach out and go, oh my gosh, I that's what I needed to hear. I just needed that extra push not to give up today. And that's kind of my tagline, just never give up.
Yeah. That's so great. And that's actually the title of one of our books coming up. We'll talk to you about that one. It's called Never Give Up. And so we're going to be talking about that one later. But, today we're talking about Wickedly Smart Women book. So Angel, you're up.
Yeah, well, so Stacy, I'm getting the tingles right now. Okay. Just, and that for me means pay attention. That for me means trust, trust. It's an intuitive thing. Sometimes it's tingles. Sometimes I hear, sometimes I just know. Right now I'm getting the tingles as you said those words, it is the American dream for many, many people. And one of the things that I noticed in the story that you just told, but also in your chapter is, you were literally riding the edge of failure, right? You were riding, like, I'm keeping this dream alive. I'm riding the edge of failure. Right. And you also somehow opened up time, like magically opened up time in your life. You were working a full-time job. You had kids, you had a husband, all of these things. So I'd love to have you speak about, your willingness to not only take action, but to keep investing, keep investing your life force, to keep investing your time, to literally take time and open it up so that you were still taking care of your kids. You were still running, out doing outside sales. You were still being a wife and all the things. Somehow you magically opened up time by choosing to take action and keep investing and ride that edge of failure. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, the most important thing I can say to anyone that's doing that is, I call them dream killers. Don't listen to those people. If you believe in yourself, you believe in what you're working for, you believe in your idea, and you're passionate about it, you just can't listen to those people. It doesn't mean cut them out of your life, but I had a lot of them, and even my own parents who love me and support me, but they would look at me and went, that's not a thing. Like, what are you talking about? They're old school, and they thought, business is a brick and mortar and, some sort of service or product. And, and I just had to walk away from that negativity and say, no, I know I can do this, and I know I can make it work. And even my husband, who is probably my biggest cheerleader, he thought we would get, some small, maybe a shopping mall that we patrolled, or some, some little project that might, supplement our income a little bit, but he never dreamed we would, change 200 police officers' lives. He doesn't think quite as big as I do, but yeah. So when it happened, it was huge, but there was many times along the way that I said, am I doing the right thing? Should I spend more time with my children? Should I, do something else? Should I just go back to outside sales and just make the best of it? And, and like I said, I always go back to my mom, who always told me, success doesn't come knock on your door. You got to go get it. And, I feel very strongly about that. And if you're not happy, and I wasn't, it's fine to make a living, and that's great. And for people that's enough, that's awesome. But when you don't have to worry about the bills, you just know they're going to be paid. Life is so much more fun. I mean, it's really completely a different experience in the world. And, I wish that for everybody.
I love that. There's a saying that Les Brown says. He says, they say money can't buy you happiness, but everybody wants to find out for themselves, right?
Right. Right. Well, and my mom used to say, money can't buy you happiness, but the lack of money can make you miserable, which is absolutely the truth.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like your mom was really a great, just a great person in your life with some, great messages that you've carried on, into your adult life as well. And congratulations on finding that, that niche and sticking with it and doing it. So that's just so fabulous. We're going to come right back to you. So I want to, talk to Dr. B a little bit. So B, your chapter title is Intuition, the True God Particle. I'd love to hear from you. Like, how did you come up with that title? Did you kind of like waffle on titles and then you landed on it? Or was that like an instant, it just popped into your head and this is the title for the book? So what's your experience on that?
Writing is so therapeutic for me. And let me tell you, the moment I started writing, it just happened so naturally for me. So when I was done writing my chapter, I didn't have to think about what I was going to call it. It just dropped in my spirit. And I said, that's it. That's it. And so that's pretty much, I allow my intuition literally to lead me in everything, including creating the title for the book.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. I'm kind of the opposite, where I will come up with a title first and then the chapter falls from that. And I know that, everybody's different. And I'm sharing this because if you're sitting there listening to us right now and you're like, I don't know what to write about, just start writing. Just start writing, because you can always change it. You don't have to, you're not stuck with whatever you write. And that's the beauty of, especially in today's world. Now, if we were in the 1700s, it might be a little different because you'd have a little quill pen and you wouldn't be able to erase it, right? But today you got a computer, you can change everything. Did they have quill pens back then? I have no idea. But so next I want to go to Angel for B.
Yeah. So, Dr. B, one of the things that I love about you is how solid you are, how epically solid you are in trusting your intuition, but also, to put a little spin on this, our next book is going to be about channeling and channeling wisdom, creating wealth, and changing worlds as well. And so one of the things that I know about you, and I also know about intuition, is the more we trust, the more we say yes, the more we tap in and tune in, the clearer our channel gets. Mm-hmm. I'd love to have you talk about some of the experiences you have had over the course of your life, which is epic. I mean, you were in law enforcement yourself at one point, where the intuition dropped in and you just said yes and you trusted it and you took action and transformed your own life.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I used to be in law enforcement at one particular point in time. I'm an Air Force veteran as well. I feel like everything that I have, every career choice that I have made, every business that I have started, everything that I have done, I've had to trust my intuition in doing it. Before I got into law enforcement, I remember, I was selling Mary Kay. So I was completely on the opposite end of the spectrum. And yet I trusted myself to make this move. And I feel like, just like Stacy was saying, oftentimes we get to this place where we are challenged and we have to decide whether or not we're going to follow through and continue to trust ourselves. We've been holding on to an idea for 2 years. We haven't seen a breakthrough yet. We're about to enter into a career field that we have no knowledge about. It's a completely new territory for us. And all of these things force us actually to trust ourselves. And that's part of really tuning into your intuition, is trusting yourself.
Beautiful.
So how do you know when it's intuition that's guiding you? And as far as, I've like this question I've had recently for myself is, how do I know that it's more of intuition than just my own desires? How do I know the difference?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I know.
That's a good question. That's almost like when people say, how do I know that it's God talking to me? Well, one of the first things that I like to get people to get attuned with is their voice. And one of the ways that you find your still small voice is in stillness and in meditation. So I feel like a huge piece of listening to your intuition, actually, before you do that, you need to be grounded, and you need to make sure that you are not just following, your mind. Your mind may say this, your mind may say that. 10 seconds later, you have a different feeling. When it comes to your intuition, it's something that just you just know. It's an inner knowing. You might not be able to rationalize it with your mind. It may not make any sense to your logical mind. It's an inner knowing that's within your heart space. Maybe you sleep on something, the next day you still feel the same way. The next week you still feel the same way. So if you have this burning conviction in your heart, that is your intuition, versus just having your mind, change here and there. That's not your intuition. That's using your mind. It's a completely different system.
Okay, a system. I like that. Okay, I'm big on systems, so I can get behind that. Thank you. I love that. So I do have a question for Stacy. Stacy, when you moved into this space, like here you are, now you have this contract, it was about a month before it got started. Like, what kind of emotions were going through your mind, your heart, your soul, your body? What was coming up for you? Because here you were, literally, like you transforming like 200 officers. You didn't know at that time it was going to be 200,
Right.
but you knew it was going to be many, right? And so what was did you have doubts? Like, what were you experiencing during that?
I think, it's all really a blur for about 2 weeks of that time. But it was more just excitement that, I did it. I believed in myself, and I really thought I could do it. And I also want to say I was willing to put in the work, if that makes sense. You can have kind of like what Dr. B, you can have all the intuition, all the logical thought, you can have all that. But if you're not really willing to put in the work, it's never going to break for you. So when I say don't give up, I also mean, be willing to do what it takes. There's many people who would not be willing to sell everything to make it happen, or, would give up before, the contract arrived or whatever. So, yeah, I was really just excited. And I think the support from the law enforcement community, that we had started this company, and that, we were going to pay via direct deposit, and we were going to put out a schedule, so they were going to know in advance when they were going to get paid, and when they were going to work, and as much work or as little work as they want. It just really made me proud and excited. And then the response, when I would tell the story to friends and family, and the amount of podcast requests I began getting, and just everybody wanted me to come on and tell the story, and just try to motivate those people that are probably on that edge, like you said, do I continue or do I give up, kind of thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I love how you did the work, just like you said, it's about doing the work. And so, thank you so much for doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Stacy, one of the things that you said there was you had the support of the law enforcement community. So what I'd love to do is talk now about your experience as an author in our collaborative book, where we actually have built a community. And that's one of the beautiful things about collaborative books, is part of the process is weaving together this web of support, of mutual cheerleading, of sharing our platforms and our audiences and cross-pollinating. Like I call it bee medicine. It's like
Right.
cross-pollinating.
Right.
So I'd love to have you talk a little bit about your experience as you've gone with us, with Linda and with myself and our teams through this journey of becoming a co-author in this book, Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action and Transforming Worlds. Hey, everybody who's watching and listening, go buy the book right now before Stacey starts to speak.
Like, go girl. I've already had many people tell me they've downloaded it to their Kindle. So we're excited. I'm excited it's out. I've been in other collaborative books before, and this process has really been much easier than the others. Linda's amazing. You're amazing. And the support of all the authors has been amazing as well. So yeah, if anyone has, they're thinking of becoming an author, like you said earlier, this is a great way to kind of dip your toe in the water and see if it's for you. And the support you get from all the other women in this case, and from Action Takers Publishing, it has just been amazing. Really been blown away. I mean, didn't really have to do anything except write my chapter, and everything was taken care of, which is awesome, because I'm running quite a few businesses over here. So I really appreciate all that.
Well, thank you for the great testimonial. We'll definitely use that. Thank you. Totally unexpected. I love it when those come up. Angel asks these questions and it goes off into that. We're talking about the book, Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, Transforming Worlds. And you can get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/smart. Over there, you're going to find over $3,000 worth of free gifts that our authors are giving away. Please take advantage of those free gifts. And then also, when you get over there, you're going to see a bunch of different flags for different countries. Click on the flag that's the country that you're most close to, or the country you're in, and purchase the book in that country. This is what helps us to hit that international bestseller status. And we are already an international best-selling book, which is awesome. But what are we shooting for? Number one. We're number one. We're shooting for number one. It's only 99 cents. So please, just take an opportunity to head on over there, buy the book, and help us to hit that number one international bestseller status. So Angel, you're up next.
All right. Are we going to talk a little bit about Dr. B and what she's got going on? Dr. B, one of the things that I know about you is that you also have been a multi-million-dollar business owner. And so I think for Wickedly Smart Women, the potential always exists to create extraordinary amounts of money relative to the average Joe, shall we say. So what I'd love to ask you about is the experience when the money comes, right? When the money comes, and I'm saying when, not if, right? When the money comes, what was your experience of stepping into that, wealth creation frequency, and also stewarding the money in a way that allows it to be generative?
Well, first of all, I knew the money was coming because I manifested the money. I knew the money was coming because the money was already within my vibration, because my vibration raised to the level where the money was. And so therefore the money had no choice but to physically show up in my reality. And so when it did, it was like, a miracle in a way. So for me to be able to be a master manifester and to see my vision come to pass, oh my gosh, it's an amazing feeling. That means that now you can do, what you've set out to do. I've started so many charities, because of my success. I helped children who had epilepsy. I gave out CBD to children with epilepsy. I started programs for teenagers who were homeless. I did so much with the money. And every time I am successful, it's an opportunity for me to give back. And so being a master manifester and bringing money into your life space is an opportunity for you to also be a change agent. Oftentimes we want everything else in the world to change. We want, the politics to change. We want Washington, D.C. to change. And these things, they may take time to change, but what can change is what you change within yourself. You can become the change that you want to see and directly affect your environment. And so being a master manifester and getting money in is a beautiful thing because it gives you an opportunity again to give back.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. And that is such a big thing because I remember when I first started on my entrepreneurial journey, I was like, I only need this much money. Like it was all about only what I need and not realizing that the more money I make, the more I can help. Right. And or the money is reflective of the people that I am helping. So the more money I'm making is because I'm helping more people. And so, really money is it's a big topic, a big topic. And unfortunately, we don't have enough time to talk about it because, oh my gosh, time is flying by. We're bringing our next guest up here soon. But before we do that, I would love, Dr. B and Stacy, I'm going to start with Stacy. I would love for you to share with us, like, what is one thing that if you could give, your greatest advice to people, to be able to, create not what you've created, but how you've created it. What would that one piece of advice be?
Well, I think I have two, and I kind of said one of them earlier, and that's, don't listen to the dream killers. Don't let those people in. And then if you don't know what your passion is, which I hear that a lot, how do you figure out what your passion is? So my advice is fail more, try more things, find out what doesn't work, and just keep trying, and I would be amiss if I didn't say this about my story. Y'all, this wasn't my first business. I've been unsuccessful at many businesses. And, so life is a lot about timing, and I think everything happens kind of when it's supposed to. And Dr. B probably knows this as well. Back when you were selling makeup, it probably wasn't the right time for things to change in your life in that way. So, even if one thing doesn't work for you, just don't give up. Try more things, try something different, try something new, until you really figure out what your passion is. And, I didn't give up, but I also had the passion to help these police officers, and I really saw the need. So I would just say, try more things, fail more, and don't listen to the dream killers.
Oh, I love that. And don't let the failure make you think that you're a failure, because you're not a failure, right? It's all about putting it out there, trying new things and seeing what sticks. And it took me 8 years to get to this point, in my entrepreneurial journey. So yeah, I've had a lot of opportunities to fail. So that's good.
Yeah. And it's just a lesson. I mean, I learned a lot from every failure I learned.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And Dr. B, what would you like to share with the audience? Like that one piece of knowledge or intuition that you want to share with the audience.
Identify your why. Remember why you came here. Who did you come to serve? What did you come to do? What did you come to give? What problem are you seeking to resolve? And do that. And don't give up.
Oh, that is so good. Never give up. That's right. That's one of our books we're launching in 2023. So stay tuned for that one. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here. We're talking about the Wickedly Smart Women book, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, Transforming Worlds. Go get your copy. You can get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/smart. It's only 99 cents on Kindle. And then also cash in on over $3,000 of free gifts from our authors. Go head over there today, get your copy. Actually, don't go today. Go right now. Go right now and get your copy and share this video out or share that link out, because we're shooting for the #1 international bestseller status, and you can help us get there. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here. And we're going to go ahead and send you down to the green room. We're going to bring up our next guest, and let's hit #1 today. Go share those links out with everybody. Okay. Oh gosh, that was so good, Angel. loving these interviews, the energy, the excitement, what everybody's about, what they do, how they serve the world, how they're making a greater impact on the planet. It's just so amazing. What's been your favorite piece so far of this morning? Not person, because I don't want you to have to pick like your favorite child, but what's been your favorite piece of this today?
Well, I think I just want to say I'm having the tingles.
Tingle, tingle, tingle.
And so, I think my favorite piece of today is I am feeling so much enthusiasm. I am feeling so much joy. I am feeling so much support. And I am feeling affirmed myself in saying yes to doing the book, in saying yes to starting the podcast, in saying yes to collaborating with you and your amazing team. I'm tingling all over.
I love it. She's got the tingles. Well, what I wanted to share is that 100% of the proceeds from the sales of this book, 100% goes to the Life is Good Playmakers Project. And Angel, I would love for you to share a little bit about that project before we bring up our next guests.
Yeah, so the Life is Good Playmaker Project is an extension of the Life is Good brand, which is $100 million lifestyle brand that started with two guys selling t-shirts out of the back of the van. And at the time that they hit on the Life is Good the little guy, his name is Jake, and the words life is good and the logo and everything. By the time they hit on that, they were down to $78 and eating peanut butter out of a jar. And one of the things that they discovered as their brand blew up and as they, started that trajectory up to being $100 million brand was it wasn't ultimately about the t-shirts, because many people started writing to them, a lot of them children or adults who were caring for children who had all kinds of traumatic experiences. And one of the turning points for them was when a pair of boys wrote to them about how Jake inspired them. And this pair of boys, one of the boys was blind and the other boy was born without a leg or an arm or something. I can't remember exactly what, but they were brothers, and they wrote to the Life is Good guys and talked about how much they loved Jake and how much they loved Jake going out bicycling and how much they loved Jake going out, fishing and camping and all the fun things. And it dawned on Bert and John Jacobs, who were the brothers who started Life is Good, that what they had was something much bigger than just a t-shirt brand. And they connected with this guy, Steve, who was running a nonprofit, and invited Steve to come in to be an extension of the Life is Good brand. And Steve's nonprofit was the kind of kernel that started the Life is Good Playmakers Foundation. And Steve was all about helping frontline childcare workers to be able to teach children how to play again who had been traumatized. So it's just such a powerful story, Linda. It was such a powerful story that it got my heart, right? And that's how I ended up choosing to have that organization be the destination for my tithing, which is 10% of my net profits goes to the Life is Good Playmakers Foundation. 10% of Life is Good's profits, and they're $100 million company, goes to the Life is Good Playmakers Foundation. And all of the proceeds of our book are going to the Life is Good Playmakers.
Yeah, I love that. And as you mentioned, the story, right? The power of the story. Mm-hmm. And today we're talking about the book, Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, Transforming Worlds. The stories in this book, there are 17 women who have come together to share their stories to make a greater impact on the planet. And I got to tell you, these stories, like when you read them, come to it with an open mind, open heart, open soul, so that when you read the stories, you learn what it is that you can learn through that story. Everybody's going to learn something different because all of us are in different places in our lives. We've all had different experiences. Now, there might be one chapter where you learn a whole bunch and one where you don't learn as much, but that's okay. Keep reading, because every chapter is an opportunity for you to learn something new about yourself. For maybe it's going to teach you about how to tap into your own intuition. As when I read Dr. B's chapter, it really helped me to see more about spirituality spirituality and how to, how to dive into that, because I didn't come from a very spiritual. I didn't come from a spiritual family at all. Like more like agnostic was my family. And so really like moving into this space is just, this book has been helpful for me to learn to, again, trust my own intuition and to tap into that. So next up, though, we're going to bring our next guest, which is Sharon Wallen. And Angel, I would love for you to introduce Sharon. I'm going to bring her up.
Well, Sharon is one of those rare and magnificent beings who has been serving children for decades as a teacher in the classroom. And so this is a woman who has been a frontline childcare provider. We don't necessarily think of teachers as being childcare providers, but we as parents literally put our children into classrooms to care for the young minds, to care for and nurture the inherent gifts that are in them. And Sharon's story is just so powerful. One of the things I love best about her is her willingness to invest in herself, to bring herself to the highest pinnacle of excellence in her field. So I'm so excited to have you here, Sharon. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning, ladies. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
You can hear me. Okay. Good morning, ladies. I'm overjoyed. I don't want to say stunned, because I have been reading the stories and they're beyond precious. It's one thing meeting the ladies in interviews and panel discussions, but reading these and when I read, I tend to underline and stuff. So like that remarkable January 1st, 2015 for you, Linda, and it's repeated so often in yours. And, you know, your day of awakening, Angel, September 9th, 2001, and praying for yourself. And so just, I'm a little stunned. So I come this morning excited to even, think about this life is good in my hand, having no idea that in my future, and this is, just as you said, this is something I was saying to the children where they come from different homes in the room, the classroom. And it didn't matter what might have been their care or whatever they said to me, but their teacher was saying, as I moved around, because I walk up the aisles and I walk around them, and somehow it didn't matter what it was in the morning or in the afternoon, but their teacher kept saying, life is good, it's gonna be okay. And for this student, 3 or 4 months later after school started at the end of August. And my birthday is November 30th. So that's about 3 months of school. And she painted. Her parents had to buy her all these things, but for her to paint this and bring me a statement that she heard her teacher saying, and says, hope you have a great birthday. Happy birthday. And she signed her little name, Sophia M. And for me today in 2023 to be hearing this boggles my mind. I'm grateful to God. I can see the weaving of his hand on my own life. I thank you, ladies, for this project. My faith is increased, and I'm now part of a sisterhood, because when I read these stories, you can see my initials. I've owned the book. Linda did a lot to get it to me already. And I've owned my copy. Those are my initials, Sharon Rose, Angela Wallen. My dad used to mark his books like this. And I've put today's date, 1/11/23. This is a part of my world. This is my world. And I'm excited because of the vision. What I see, usually we hear and we wish good for people, but that's what this is doing. This is wishing every woman, every young girl in the world, every man in our lives. This is like an energy, as Angel would say, or intention. This is wishing people well. This is wishing the person who gets up today, if you're hurting and there's pain, if there's trauma, if there is a misunderstanding, if there is a runaway fear as a child, that feeling, and I love the way Linda said it, unloved and unsomething. There was another unword. Wow, this is saying here are 17 stories to pick you up in 20, the beginning of a new year. It's extraordinary, ladies. It's extraordinary. I am touched. My family's touched. It was 5 girls of us. All my sisters want a copy. So I told them, I said, girls, go shopping, 1. But 2, they're going to send me complimentary copies and I'll also mail you 1.
Well, be sure, Sharon, to autograph them as well.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Exactly. And Sharon,
ladies.
yeah, thank you so much for being part of it. And what I love about Sharon is Sharon shows up. Sharon shows up. So she has attended just about every single, since she joined this book, we offer opportunities for authors to get to know each other. We offer opportunities like networking events, and Sharon shows up. So thank you so much, Sharon, for being part of it, but not only being part of it, but really being part of it and just taking those steps. I want to talk about your chapter title. So your chapter title is Power of Growth, Aligned Growth, and Growth Mindset in Everyday Life. We're talking about growth, right? It's all about the growth. So why don't you share with us, like, how did you come to that chapter title and what does it mean?
Power of Growth. What it was is, I'm also doing different podcasts and, guests on different shows. So I had my message, and it was part of growth. Then there is a big work, especially in education, the growth mindset. It matters how our disposition to those children. So the growth mindset is opposite to a fixed mindset. So it means that I might think that this child comes in, the intelligence is fixed, they can't learn anymore, they can't grow. Well, a growth mindset says that with praise, with the feedback I give, with my openness towards the child, then this child, this person, can grow from one stage to another. And then the aligned growth part, I loved that because I use, sometimes, as you know, we use different symbols, and I looked at the eagle, and it's not only a large bird, but that wingspan is extraordinary. And there is that safety that it gives to the young ones under the wings. But that aligned growth is that if I get this step aligned with the other step, just as I heard your guest before talking about taking that step, making mistakes. And I would say it's also part of just living consciously. It's one of those pillars of self-esteem and self-worth. And living consciously, then I will do whatever is my next step, aligning my growth and growing forward. And in the introduction, Angel mentioned about, education and pursuing it. And I'm just grateful that in 2001, I had a brilliant colleague who took the national board test, and it had just started. It was in the second year. It started in 1999. It was a tough test, rigorous assessment process. And Teachers weren't passing it all the time, but that colleague said, Sharon, I think you should look into it. And in '01, I did, and attaining national board certification, taking that action. My mentor helping me transformed my world and definitely gave me difference for my students.
Beautiful, Sharon. Well, one of the things that you just said there was aligning with the next step in order to grow. And, there may be people who are watching us today or people who are purchasing the book who are in a place where, like, deep down inside them, they actually know it's time for them to grow. But there is a hesitancy, perhaps. There is a restriction internally, perhaps. And I am quite sure, with your years of experience in the classroom, that you must have some little magic sauce in you that you deliver and have probably delivered in this chapter as well. That's like it eases the friction, it soothes the friction, and it makes the way possible. So as we think about this idea of aligning with the next step for growth, is there one thing in your chapter that you would like our readers to get is the kind of lubricant, right, that will allow them to make the move, to align with the next step, to take the action?
Yes. Gratitude is a huge part of of just any everyday life. And the quote that right under my name, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God concerning you. So starting aligning with gratitude. When they wake up and there is that hesitancy for the next, unsure, stop. And again, just that conscious living. If I apply myself and I look consciously, what right now can I be grateful for? My breath, my voice, my senses, friends who are listening to me, probably my home. Even if there's trauma, then I can probably be grateful that I can hear and that my mind is thinking to my inside that you need to find help and get out. So even if something looks bad, start with a conscious gratitude act. And in here, not only do I talk about growth, but there is self-worth, and then it tells you how to take action. And shared my examples of that. Self-efficacy, where we take control of our life and we make a change. And there was another self-regulation, using my gut feelings and learning to trust my intuition. So the bottom line of whoever is listening to us, Angel, Linda, and I saw a nice note from Sally come up. Our self, this is all we have, our self and our time. And take care of the self-regulation, self-worth, and self-image, self-efficacy. I'm speaking up for myself. I'm going to push. And that's what we did. When a baby runs away at 5 years young, but what I saw in the story was your mom knew where you were. And mom didn't check on you day 1, day 2, day 3, but you as a little child next door, you were noting to yourself, but they're not checking on me. All those things are in here. So whatever it's with the self And Angel, your story of getting out of that basement, holy God. Wow. And then Officer Friend. And as you can see, my book is closed. I'm not reading from the pages. So that's how just even what I've read has burned into my spirit already. So I would say, get it for your self efficacy, self worth, self regulation. And that is going to lead to the growth, to all that other growth, the aligned growth, a growth mindset. Little by little, the steps will make a difference.
Oh, that's so good, Sharon. And I have a question related to the gratitude piece. Sometimes when I wake up, I'm not really feeling a lot of gratitude. So I'm just curious for you, how do you tap into that gratitude if you're not really feeling it?
Yes, yes. And my first work that I did was my Grateful Reflections journal, but it's not about this today. But in this is where I have all that work about gratitude. The bottom line of how it even started, Linda, is gratitude is about our health and wellness. It reduces anxiety. It reduces that cortisol, that brain, which is an automatic little hormone that just sends the body haywire. So it's on the health front that I practice because I'm taking care of me. So even though, let's say, if there's darkness around or something is sad, I might want to just stop and say, I am grateful that my heart is beating right now. I'm grateful I can hear the bird outside. So it doesn't have to be a major thing. I'm grateful that right now there's no pain in my head. I don't have a headache. And those little things, then also affirmation. So I begin to look at my own self. I am well. I am important. I am special. And those affirmations, God loves me. God made me. God cares about me. So those little things then help me to do the gratitude tied with affirmation. But it also has to do with the health piece. Gratitude increases happiness. You can hardly be grateful and upset at the same time. Like they don't go together. So it's that wellness piece that I also reflect on for gratitude.
Beautiful, Sharon. So, one of the things that I like to say, and actually gratitude is one of the powers of optimism from the Life is Good company. They have 10 different powers of optimism. But one of the things I like to say is gratitude is the currency of the universe, and currency is gratitude in action. So first, I want to encourage people to take their currency. If you have gratitude for the amazing, wonderful women who have contributed to this book and who have been here today on these interviews, and we'll have more later today as well. And we also have a launch party tonight. If you have gratitude, put your currency into action. Currency is gratitude in action. Sharon, you were the first person to say yes to investing, to taking your currency and investing in yourself to be a part of this book. So if there's anyone out there who is feeling the call themselves to become a writer or to add to their writing, because you've already had several writings that you've put out there, and it's time for them to say yes and take action, and get in touch with Linda for our next book. We're doing another book called Channeling Wisdom, Creating Wealth and Changing Worlds. And that book is going to be a USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller. If there's anything you could say, Sharon, about the process of working with us here at Wickedly Smart Women, working with Action Takers Publishing, to encourage somebody who might be the next person to step up and say yes and put their currency into action, what would you want to say about the experience?
Great question. If there is someone of interest, if you're hearing and you're listening and you're seeing this, follow your own intuition. Because what with me, I was happy to get the invitation. I received an invitation, an invite from Angel, announced through Linda about this project. And I was excited because I have was been doing national publicity summit and in podcast. So this seemed like an open door to the direction of where I was going. Yes, there was um, currency involved, and it was a lot. But what I did, the Action Takers Publishing Company, they had a informational night where we could go in on a Zoom and get an overview of what the project was about. I listened and I was interested. I was interested. I took a while to just mill it over, pray, and seek God about it. But after a while, I honestly felt inside that I had more to gain. So, yes, it would cost whatever was my initial input, but I had more to gain from just even going through the experience than, let's say, I had not taken that initiative. I would not be here today. I would not know what it is to be an international bestseller. I had a book on in the world, yes. I was getting publicity, but the rate was not this fast. This rate with Action Takers was extraordinary. The planning, we submit things, they edited and got feedback to us. But I'm holding a book that includes 17 ladies' work, and they did that magic of putting it all together, creating different opportunities to meet with other leaders in the industry. And from those tiered activities, they're coming together one by one. And that excites me. Did I answer your question, Angel?
Yes, you did a gorgeous job, Sharon. Thank you so much. We so appreciate you taking your currency and your gratitude and putting it into action.
Yes, thank you so much. And what I love, I just want to share this, Sharon, is what I love about when you speak is you're very thoughtful with every word. And while sometimes I'm a runaway freight train, I remind myself to be thoughtful with every word. And I think of you. So I just wanted to let you know that, because really, listening to you speak, I don't know many people that are, very extremely, again, thoughtful with every single word you speak. So I appreciate you for that, and to bring that to my life, right? Because now I have an opportunity to learn from that and to grow and to slow down as I'm doing it right now, this very moment. And just so thank you so much for being part of this book, raising your hand, being that first one to raise your hand and saying, I'm in. Being the first in a collaboration, yeah, exactly. Being the first in a collaboration book is the toughest, because you're the one who waits the longest, right? The last person who comes in, they're like, awesome, that was so fast. So I want to thank you so much for, for just, again, like showing up. You show up all the time, and you're taking advantage of the opportunities that we're giving you. And so thank you so much for that, for being part of this. We are talking about the Wickedly Smart Women book, transforming, trusting intuition, transforming. Oh my gosh.
Take a nice breath.
Yes.
Nice breath. Be intentional with your words.
The words are even there, and I'm still messing them up, right?
Nice breath.
Trusting intuition, taking action, and transforming worlds. It's an absolutely incredible book with amazing, amazing stories. You can get your copy at actiontakerspublishing.com/smart. When you go over there, you're going to see flags from a whole bunch of different countries. Click on the flag that is most appropriate for the country that you're in. And then also, don't forget to get those $3,000 of free gifts that we're offering there from all the authors. So go cash in on that, take advantage of it, and connect with the authors. They're absolutely incredible, their stories. So Sharon, I want to thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go and send you down to the green room, and then we're going to bring our final guest up. And truly appreciate you, and thanks for being part of this project and future projects to come. Thanks, Sharon. Oh, man. Angel,
Nice
okay, I got to take a
Linda.
breath. I know. Let's do a little breath exercise before we bring Valeria up. So do a breath exercise because you're the leader of that for sure.
Beautiful. Well, let's just take, first of all, let's just connect with the gratitude that we have. You know, one of the things that happens for us when we have a big message, and every single one of the people who have a big message, you know, are in this book, but also you, Linda, and Action Takers Publishing, you're providing container. The book is a container, your processes are a container. And so you're actually holding the space for not only the book, not only all of the co-authors, but also for all of the readers to be. And it's a big space to hold. And so it's so important for you to remember to stay grounded and in your pleasure and in your joy and in your body, and really use the breath. Nice deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Focus on your tailbone, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And one more time, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And this is one of the biggest challenges. I mean, I've worked with messengers for 15 years. One of the biggest challenges that we have is taking this vast vision and grounding it, bringing it to earth, bringing it to life, and utilizing our bodies, our spirits, our experience, and our channels to create these containers that materialize books, materialize podcasts, materialize transformation in the world. And so I want you to know, Linda, how big your spirit is and how epically equipped you are and how beautifully well you are doing in fulfilling your mission here with us. And I'm so grateful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That gets me emotional. And I think it's because, I'm just moving into that space of belief that that is who I am. And so it's been an incredible journey to get here. There's a lot more journey to come. That's for sure. I'm only where I am today. And, just tapping into that and saying, this is, as somebody mentioned this earlier, this is who I am. This is who I am, and I'm showing up as that person. So thanks for reminding me. And I did see Valeria. She was breathing too. She was in the back. She's like, okay, I'm going to breathe too. And so that's awesome. She took advantage of that. So I'd love Angel, please introduce Valeria. We're going to bring her up and introduce her to our audience.
Well, I am so delighted to have Valeria with us. She is one of our international authors. She originates in Ukraine, and Valeria is one of those absolutely precious beings in the world who is a living embodiment of owning her connection with her creator, and who is a living embodiment of absolute commitment and devotion to her own heart space, and who is somebody who is, through her embodiment of that, creating this resonant field of heartfelt commitment to listening and taking action, to trusting intuition, taking action, and transforming worlds. And it's such a pleasure to have you with us, Valeria. Thank you so much for joining us here today and for being a part of the book.
My gosh, thank you, Angel. I almost cried. I probably will need to do the breathwork exercise again before talking right now.
I was going to say, what would it take to get you to cry? One thing I love is, like, first of all, she's wearing the green, right? I'm wearing the blue. It's my color. Like, I always wear she's wearing the green. She's like, okay, I'm going to style with the book, which is awesome. And, Valeria, thank you so much for being here and, being part of this journey with us. And, the title of your chapter is Across the Other Side of Intuition. So I'd love to hear from you. What does that mean exactly? And how did you come up with that title of your chapter?
Yes, thank you so much. As I was writing my book, I had different options how to name my title. And then I was just scrolling through my notes from actual period of recovery with Lyme's disease. And I found this beautiful things that I wrote to myself to support myself during this time. And I'm like, well, I got there. I got through to the other side. I was able to reach my full health, and I was able to witness healing. And I am a miracle myself because of that. But also through my chapter, you will be able to see that sometimes intuition can be a blessing and a curse at the same time. Not because it's something bad, but because sometimes it takes time to receive validation that this inner voice is true, and that world will tell you, okay, you're on the right path and you're doing great. So you need to be strong, you need to believe, and you need to move forward even through the darkness and be in this light yourself to help you to get to the other side.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love how you said, sometimes a blessing, sometimes a curse. Because you decide, right? You get to decide, am I going to trust the intuition and then take that action? And then once we trust, then, it's full steam ahead. It is full steam ahead. And that's one thing that I think is beautiful, about being human, is that we have that opportunity to choose. Choice was one of the big words earlier today, and deciding, and we have that opportunity to do that. So again, thank you so much for sharing your story in this book, Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, and Transforming Worlds.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
So Valeria, for anybody who's out there listening to us today, or anybody who's going to be reading the book, who might be in the moment where they have trusted their intuition, and all of a sudden everything is like collapsing, falling apart, it looks bad, it looks really, really bad, right? And in those moments, for me at least, when it looks really, really bad, often I would turn around and look at my intuition and say, what the hell did you, and question myself, like, am I crazy? Am I crazy here? Or am I, creating chaos for myself here that's unnecessary? And it's only when going all the way through, right? It's only when going all the way through that you look back and say, oh, okay, I see now. But for those people who are in it, right? Is there something in your chapter or in the work that you do that you can offer right now to say, keep trusting that intuition, keep moving forward to get to the other side?
Yes, absolutely. It's a wonderful question because, of course, when you first get this spark inside your heart, or knowing, or you hear your intuition, you're like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to do that no matter what it takes. I have all the energy. And then you're like, well, and what am I actually doing now? So this is a wonderful time when things look really dark, to close your eyes, to connect to your heart. If you're a believer, you might pray. If you have a different connection with the source, you can connect it the way you see it and pursue it. But it's very important to just refocus yourself and tell, okay, I have just enough power, enough strength just for my next step. I will not think about the whole picture. I will not think about tomorrow. I will not think about week later. Just here now, I have everything I need inside. I have myself, and I can do it, and I'll see where it takes me. And step by step, you will be able to get there. And of course, it's very important to seek support. Perhaps it's your best friend or a book that you're reading, picking up and feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Somebody been there, they got through, it's possible. And if it's possible for them, it means that it's possible for me too. That's why I have so much joy and happiness being in this book, being the part of this book, because the energy we put inside, it's just phenomenal. And I already see all these beautiful changes that we are here to give to those who are praying to receive our hand in their moments.
I love that how you shared, the next step, right? Because I think it might have been Stacy earlier that was talking about that. And, it's that next step is all we need to really take. And we don't even need to worry about it. We don't even need to think about it because it will show itself, right? It'll show itself in a way that, okay, I know that this is the right next step. I'll just share, quickly, like how the, Action Takers Publishing really came to be is I had, I was in a collaboration book. I wrote my own book. And then I decided what's my next natural step, natural state of progression. And I was like, oh, I'm going to start putting together my own collaboration books. And I just did it for fun. I thought it was a lot of fun. And then I ended up launching 2 of them 8 days apart. And they both hit #1 international bestseller in under 5 hours. So I looked at that and I said, wow, this is the thing. I know what I'm doing. I love it. And I am damn good at this. This is what I'm going to do. Well, the next day is when that next step showed up. And somebody called me up and said, I've written 2 books and I need somebody to publish it. Will you publish it for me? And I felt like that was my like that confirmation that this is the right step that I'm on. I'm finally on the right path to keep moving forward. And we have been going like gangbusters since then. And it's really beautiful because I was willing to look at that and say, this is the thing. And I didn't let it scare me. That was the key, I think. So I want to hear from you about that related to fear and intuition. So when something comes up and you're looking at that intuitive moment and you take that action, and then do you ever feel like retreating? And if so, how do you get yourself to move back forward?
I love what you just shared with us, Linda. Thank you very much. It's so common, I think. And I always say that fears are there to protect us because naturally it's our instinct to survive, right? And sometimes when we pursue something new, our subconscious mind can think that it's not for us because we don't know if we're going to survive through that. So it's very important to address this feeling. It's very important to look straight at your fear's eyes and tell your fear, okay, I see you, but I choose not to trust you. I choose to refocus my mind and follow this light that I have inside, that even though sometimes it might seem dark, but I know it's there. And it's a beautiful process of getting to know yourself through this heart and soul connection, because it's very natural to have all these voices around us. And the more we push them away, the more they become bigger and come to get us, to stop us from doing what we want to do. And coming back to what you said, I also think it's super important to know that just keep moving. Even if you don't know where you're going, even if you don't know what you're doing, it's very important to continue choosing the action, even if it's in a moment just to go drink a glass of water to nourish your body or to do a breath work. Because when we are moving, Creator, universe, God, they can direct our steps and they can show us the way. But if we just sit and cry, unfortunately, we will remain at the same position.
Beautiful. I love that, Valeria. So one of the things you said, not in that answer, but in the answer before, was this idea of there are people out there praying to receive our hand. And so that just made me think for a moment, when Linda and I came together and decided to do this collaborative book, we are then we then were putting our hand out, right? And there were people in the world, yourself included, that were praying to receive our hand, right? They were praying to receive our hand. So for anybody who might be considering bringing their story out, or participating in one or more of the many collaborative books that Linda and I are already seeing as possible in our path, you know, when you were praying to receive our hand, what was your process of recognizing that our hand was the hand that you were praying to receive? And number one, and number two, what was your process of saying, yes, I'm going to take this hand and walk in partnership with these women?
Yes, it was immediate response from my heart, from my body, that it is a time. And during this process, I also found out that I'm expecting my first child, and it was a blessing. And I'm like, well, this is just a beautiful moment to co-create this book with this new spirit that is coming through me. That is also validation that I got it. I was able to heal myself, because, you know, a lot of times doctors were telling me, well, you will never become a mom. And it was just breaking my heart. And when I saw that it's all possible, I have chills as I say that. I'm like, just a beautiful alignment for me to tell to the world that don't allow any doctor, any big figure dictate who you are and what you can or cannot do. And I was praying to be able to share my message in the most beautiful and enlightened way, because I believe in energy. I believe in energy work itself, because I'm a Connect Me coach at You to Shine, and this is what I do now by helping others. So I immediately was able to connect with your frequency, with the energies that you put through this book, and the fact that we are here to support little kids also was a very big part of, I think, this intuitive guidance for me.
Beautiful. Well, we're so grateful. We're so grateful, and congratulations. Let me ring the bell.
Yes.
A book baby is being born today, and one of our co-authors has a bun in the oven as well. So such a beautiful, auspicious sign. Congratulations, Valeria.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that. Yeah, thank you so much for saying yes. Yes to you, yes to us, yes to the universe, and for being part of this book, Wickedly Smart Women. And, what's a final parting word that you would love to share with our audience before we send you down to the green room?
Just that you're never alone. You have yourself, you have Creator, universe supporting you constantly. And as long as you are here to choose to believe in it, to choose to accept this support, to choose to be part of this beautiful energies that we all call life, you got this. And please read our book.
Yes. Read the book, read the book, read the book. Thank you so much, Valeria. Appreciate you being part of this. And let's keep pushing the book out there until we hit that #1 status. Okay. Oh, Angel, wow, what a great morning this was. I know we have some more interviews coming up later today. I believe we're starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern time. And so we'll be back for more of that. But in the meantime, check it out. We have the next Wickedly Smart Women book coming up. We already have the web page is already set up, ready for you to join us on that book as well. That book is Wickedly Smart Women, Channeling Wisdom, Creating Wealth, Changing Worlds. And that book is going to be a USA Today and a Wall Street Journal best-selling book. So if you want to be part of that, go to our website at actiontakerspublishing.com/WSW. There's a link there for you to book a call, to get on a call with me, to talk a little bit more about it, so you can make sure that you're making the right decision for you, and that you're the right decision for the book, because this does go hand in hand with collaboration books. We got to make sure that the stories are a fit for the book, as well as the book being a fit for you to join us. So with that said, gosh, this has been an incredible morning. Again, you'll go to actiontakerspublishing.com/smart, download your $3,000 worth of free gifts, as well as purchase the Kindle version of the book. It's only 99 cents US, and then is whatever the breakdown is in different countries. You got to figure it out when you head over there. But you're going to see a whole bunch of flags. Click on the flag that pertains to your country. Download the copy of the Kindle version right there. Even if you don't have a Kindle, you can still read the book via Kindle. You can also purchase the paperback as well, but the Kindle version is really what helps us to hit that #1 international bestseller status. So please purchase that. And Angel, I'd love for you to, wrap us up with your final words for this morning before we head off, and then we come back at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific.
Well, let's just be grateful for sure. Gratitude is the currency of the universe. Currency is gratitude in action. We would love to have you support our amazing, wonderful women authors from all over the world, and come back today at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific for the remaining panel interviews and highlights. And we have a launch party tonight. So all of that data is at actiontakerspublishing.com/smart. And then the last thing that I want to say as we wrap up here, Linda, is for those of you who are part of this party today, who've been watching us, who've already bought the book, please share with your spheres of influence, because sharing is caring. And if you really care and you have been touched by any of these women today and by our project here, we need your help. One of the things that I've learned over the years, and it was a hard lesson to learn, let me be very clear about that, I'm still learning it, is to exercise your asking for help muscle. So I am asking for your help to get our book and these authors up to #1 international bestseller status. If you've been touched, if you have been inspired, if you are motivated, if you are feeling the prayer of the hands, right? That if you're praying to receive our hand and you know of somebody else who might be praying to receive our hand, please share with your spheres of influence. And thank you 13 times to Linda and all of the people behind the scenes at Action Takers Publishing, as well as my team behind the scenes at Wickedly Smart Women podcast and the Wickedly Smart Women brand.
And this has truly been an amazing collaboration. And guess what, Angel? I don't know if I don't think I announced this because I just found it yesterday. Sally told me about it. Sally will be joining us later this afternoon. But you can actually, when you're at the book, you can buy for others. So you could go on there. Let's say you wanted to gift the book away to people. What you would do is you could buy, let's say you're going to do 10 of them. So it'd be $10. You'd be investing $10 and you would have 10 Kindle versions of the book to give away to other people. Now, what happens is when you gift it over to them, it counts as credit towards the purchase of the book once they cash in and they click that link. So if you want to do that, that would be a great way that you can give a gift away to people, of the Wickedly Smart Women book. And so again, you just, when you're, tapped into Amazon, you just go buy for others and you purchase however many copies you want to get of that, which is really cool. I tested it out last night and it works. And so it's a really awesome way for us to be able to share the word, share the message, and get the book into more hands, because this book is truly transformative. So thank you, Angel.
Go ahead. And also raise funds for the Life is Good Playmakers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you don't have to just raise 99 cents. We would love to have you raise 100 or more,
exactly.
1,000. Come on, bring on the fun funds, because all of the proceeds of this book, we're not taking anything. Linda's not taking anything.
Mm-mm.
None of the authors are receiving money to sales today. All of the money is going to the Life is Good Playmakers. So buy 100, buy 1,000, buy 10,000.
Exactly. Do it.
Happy to send that check along to the Life is Good Playmakers Foundation.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, 100% of the proceeds go there. So, we're not trying to make a lot of money over here. We're trying to make a lot of money for them so they can help those kids, who have been traumatized. Norma says, I've been touched by all the authors. I want to share with my friends. Awesome option to gift. And I'm going to take a nap before the 1 p.m. Angel so that I can speak much better, much more clearly. So this has been a lot of fun. I love this. This is my favorite part of the whole process. I love the whole process, but this is my favorite because I get an opportunity to connect even deeper with the authors and the books. These collaborations, it's a collaboration that goes on and on and on. It doesn't just stop like the day of the launch. So this keeps on going. And so I'm just honored and blessed to have every single one of our authors from all of our books, you know, to have them in my life. But today's book, we're talking about Wickedly Smart Women, trusting intuition, taking action, and transforming worlds. And we're looking at hitting #1 international bestseller. And Angel, I'll give you the final word for the day, and then we'll come back at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, well, the final word is to thank everybody who's joined us today here on the stream, either in LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. We're all over the place. And so for anybody who tuned in at any point during this, Linda, can they come back and watch the recording? Is that?
Yes, the replays are available, and they'll always be available because we always want you to purchase the book. Yeah, of course.
Fantastic.
And learn about the authors as well, of course. But we want you to purchase the
Fantastic.
book because we want that donation to, you know, to the Life is Good Playmakers. Yes, definitely.
So if you're watching this after the fact, keep on buying the book. And
Yes.
don't let it, the fact that it's, you know, 12 years from now stop you from buying the book.
It'll still be available. And we'll still be donating even 12 years into the future. So
fabulous.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angel. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And we're going to close this out with just a really quick commercial. And we'll see you back at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern.